Hello, and welcome to the You, Me, We Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Jackie, and this is a podcast where I bring to you ideas about emotions and feelings. The reason why I'm interested in that is because I'm a counsellor. I'm a therapist. I deal with emotions on a regular basis as part of my practice. People come to me for a variety of things, and there are emotions running through the thoughts that they may have, or the behaviours that they may be living out, or things that have happened to them. By understanding emotions, I think it can tell us a lot about a situation or a person. Today I have a little bit of either an allergy or some sort of congestion, so my voice may sound a little bit different, but please bear with me. This podcast is not a substitute for seeking professional mental health guidance and advice. If there are things in this episode that are triggering or upsetting and you feel you need further emotional support, please seek professional advice. If you feel you are unable to keep yourself safe, then please take yourself to accident and emergency. In today's episode, I want to explore a bit about this question: why do we have emotions? So let's see. Let me start with do we need them? Let's do yes versus no. In the yes pile, I'd say it helps us follow our heart, follow our joy, brings purpose. It can bring connections, help build connections, because it's emotions that help with building empathy, compassion, and ultimately love, which is, I'd say, the umbrella for those emotions like compassion and empathy. In the no pile, I'd say, with regards, do we need emotions? Emotions can blur the lines between facts and opinions. I think we've all probably been there where you're adamant about something. It can be really typical with teenagers, for example. But we've all been there, and I've definitely done it, where you're adamant about something. You think something is a certain way, but really when you pick it apart and explore it, what you're dealing with is an opinion. It's not actually the fact. So once you take emotions out of something, you can have a clearer idea of what is a fact and what's an opinion. And emotions, or not having emotions in the way of a decision, can help someone make an executive decision. It doesn't have to be as dark and brutal as whether this person should keep their job or not. It could be literally, you might be going on holiday, you're running out of space, you've got this big Bluetooth speaker you want to bring, and you've got your favourite pair of trainers you want to bring. Which one do you bring? Do I need the trainers more than the speaker? Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to make an executive decision and leave the trainers, bring the speaker. I'll manage with the shoes I've got on my feet. Something like that, you know? So you might be emotionally attached to some of these objects, and you might not want to have to make that decision. But if you remove some emotions, those executive decisions can be made a little bit easier. They are drivers. Emotions are drivers. What makes you do the things you do, or what makes you not do the things that you may need to do, or why you don't do something. For example, what made you tune in for more of these episodes? It could be curiosity. There may be a sense of caring about what I have to say or what you could get from this. So somewhere in there, there's emotions. Emotions bring about feelings, different types of feelings, and for some, they have an easier ability to tap into it than others. And if you notice, really, there's 4 basic feelings that we have, and they all go off on spectrums to broaden them out. And say, for example, in therapy, if I'm working with a child and it's hard for them to really know what they're feeling, it's always, I think many therapists know this hot cross bun method. It's literally like a hot cross bun square, 4 boxes, and in each box one has different emotions: joy, sad, fear, angry. And you can easily tend to identify what it is you're feeling. And it can work with adults too. It doesn't have to just be something used for children. But when someone doesn't know how they're feeling, if you can think, is it joy you're feeling right now? Perhaps it's anger. Perhaps it's a mix of both. And these emotions, if you notice, joy, sad, fear, anger, they all have the ability to bring about tears. You could be so angry, it brings tears to your eyes. You can be so overjoyed, it can bring tears to your eyes. So there is significance to emotions and why we have them. They bring about direction in us because they have us feel a type of energy. They vibrate in a certain way. We're drawn to people who vibrate in a way that resonates with our vibrations, whether that's positive or negative. So that energetic experience can give either subtle direction. You may find that you feel more relaxed, for example, when you're around a particular person. That might feel so subtle, very hard to put your finger on it. They could bring about strong direction. You could have an aversion to a particular thing, and an emotion of disgust or stress, something along those lines, makes you direct yourself in a completely different way away from that situation or that person. So as you can see, emotions, they give guidance. Where to go, where not to go, what to do. They bring about a sense of guidance. And if I think of a kind of a life cycle of how emotions are developed, if I think of an infant, someone who's like a small child, a baby, a toddler, they are drinking in their environment. They have emotions. We see children cry. We see children exhilarated with joy, get excited. But they are drinking in what's around them, and in this state of being informed by their world. By the time it gets to childhood, like an older age in childhood, like 6, 7, 8, 9 and up, they are now in a position of being able to better regulate their emotions. So why do emotions need regulation? Well, they can be very powerful, as they know. If you gave into your emotions all the time, would it be successful, or could it be problematic? Or are there times where there are certain emotions you do need to pay attention to? And is it appropriate to have an outburst in this place, or is it suitable to wait until that place? Or can you have an outburst at that place and be helped? These are all these things that children are learning, and emotional regulation isn't something I don't think enough attention's put to. Actually, it's something I'm quite interested in teaching children how to emotionally regulate themselves, because it can bring about a great sense of independence, and they learn it by watching others. But you can help a child regulate their emotions if they're struggling. I think if you see a child struggling with a particular emotion, like a temper tantrum's a classic one, there's ways of helping. And I think it will serve that child well if you find ways to help them when they're dealing with difficult emotions, rather than just leaving them. And how to help a child with a temper tantrum, yes, we can discuss this at another time, but I can briefly go into it. It's not necessarily to it's to have a plan, basically. Don't leave it to when the temper tantrum happens and then try everything you've got in the bag, shouting, physically trying to drag them. Have an idea in place what to do when that happens and rehearse it. So when they are aware, this is what's going to happen when I have a temper tantrum. And it's something you need to be consistent with. For example, a child may have a temper tantrum when they go to the supermarket because they see candy there that they want and they're not going to have it. So that's a conversation that can be had before you've gone into the shop. So the child's being forewarned. They can be told if you have a temper tantrum and you throw yourself on the floor, you're going to be ignored, for example. So they've been forewarned. And ignored doesn't mean telling somebody, right, I'm going to ignore you now. What you're doing is really annoying me. Now I'm going to start ignoring. That's not ignoring, that's putting attention to something. Ignoring is removing yourself from a situation. You may choose to not ignore it. It may be that you need to obviously risk assess. They might not be somewhere safe where they can throw themselves down. And you might have a different plan. I'm just giving you an example. The point of it is plan. Have a plan. Don't get caught off guard because you're more likely to fall into your emotions when a child has a temper tantrum. And yeah, it gets a bit messy. That's me going off on a tangent there. So infancy, they drink it in. Childhood, you're learning to regulate your emotions. Teens, let's see, you go into your teens now, and emotions are a bit of a roller coaster. They're all over the place. They're high, they're low, they're extreme, they're catastrophic. Things mean big things, and things that you want to mean big things to them don't mean anything, you know. It's the developmental stage that they're at. Actually, their prefrontal cortex is developing. The ability to have cognitive processing is actually what's forming. So while it's forming, the other parts of the brain go to sleep. So what has a little bit of a nap over those teenage years is the ability to empathize with another person. That takes a nap. So you may feel that your teen is actually quite mean, quite cold, lacks empathy. Don't worry, it will come back. You just keep on showing them love, and the rest of their brain's developing, so certain things have to take a back seat while other things develop. And eventually the mature brain, as it forms, it learns to integrate the two, which would lead into early adulthood. And I think people forget that actually the brain continues to develop well into the early 20s. 21, 22, 23, 24, the brain's still developing. Though by the time the teens are they look adultish, don't they? So people forget that their brain's still doing a lot more growing. So emotions are high and low when you're in a teen, and into early adulthood, I'd say with emotions, it's an attempt to apply the knowledge gained by emotions whilst gaining new insights. So now you've made it through those teen years, you're still experiencing a lot of emotions, but now you can apply some of what you've learned to your life. And then into adulthood, you've now got responsibilities, and responsibilities regarding emotions. What's yours, what belongs to others, and what are the consequences to some of the emotions that you're experiencing, or some of the emotions that you may be invoking in others. You've got a broader sense of your responsibility. And then from that, I'd say it leads into maturity. Now, I'll explain this in this kind of way, and this is obviously my opinion. I'm not taking this from some theory somewhere. This is a theory of Jackie. Maturity. So I'd say, you notice that we judge people on how mature they are based on how they handle emotions. Is that right or is that wrong? I don't know. So somebody, you might see a young person and they seem mature because they are handling, or what's perceived to be that they are handling emotions quite maturely. Now, what does that really mean? I guess it means that they have found a way to regulate their emotions and not giving in to the impulses and the urges that emotions may push somebody to want to do. But let's say we've gone from talking about young adulthood and maturity. I'm not going to put an age to it and say, oh, by such and such age, by 35, by 40, by this. Because maturity and emotional maturity doesn't really have a chronological age, because I'm sure you know people who are down the line chronologically, agey wise, and they may act very childish. And you can get somebody who's not very old, but they have a kind of a bit more of a solid head on their shoulders. So, but generally speaking, if we stick to age, by the time you've experienced certain milestones in life, it can bring about, it's assumed that you have experienced a range of different emotions, therefore are able to navigate your way through life, managing these emotions and not letting them get the better of you, or letting them get the better of you when needed. I mean, it really is something it involves a lot of self-exploration. But with maturity, I think it's almost a similar thing to infancy. You're drinking in the environment. You're still in a position of taking in all what you see around you, merging it with what you know is already in you, and showing up in the world a particular way. All of it being driven by particular emotions. And it can bring about discernment. I feel good when I do this, I feel bad when I do that. I stay away from the things that cause me to feel bad. I'm more drawn to the things that cause me to feel good. So emotions can have a dark side. Emotions can be used manipulatively. Someone can feel numb, for example. I'd say when somebody feels numb, it could be something's been overworked. It could be a burnout of something, or when somebody does feel numb, they may feel numb about something, but yet very sensitive about another thing. They could feel numb and yet have tears in their eyes. So there's some sort of dysregulation emotionally. Something's not feeling how it once felt. And I guess another dark side to emotions is that people can mask their true emotions, their true feelings with what they think might be acceptable, and on a negative way that can be used manipulatively, and on a positive way it could be used as a way to just get through a day or a situation a little bit easier without anybody prying too much. Emotions are very powerful things. The most powerful, I'd say, would be on a spectrum of love one end, all the way down to the other end, fear. So they're two extremely powerful emotions. Love, for example, is the reason I do what I do. It comes from a place of wanting to reach out to others and share things that I know. But fear can get in the way of so many things, can't it? I'm sure you've had accounts where you've been unable to do something that actually could really benefit you, but it's fear that's got in the way. So these are just some of my thoughts about why we have emotions. And it has a lot to do with things that we are attached to. That's something I'll explain more in the next episode. Look out for that. But I hope you've enjoyed my thoughts today. You take care.